What's up guys, Houndish here, and today I wanted to talk about sandbox tuning coming to Destiny 2, and I want to touch on some really important stuff that I think needs to kind of be looked at inside of this particular update. Of course, these are just my opinions. I am going to be focusing this primarily around the PvP aspect of the sandbox, and the main reason for that is that I feel like the PvE sandbox on the whole is actually in a pretty good spot. I think what PvE needs, and obviously what most of the game needs, is just incentives and good rewards and good activities. Having said that though, the positives that I'm going to talk about within the sandbox, some things that I think need to be adjusted, they're only going to be beneficial for PvE stuff as well. But I think it's really time with this March sandbox update, I think they need to knock it out of the park. We need to see some really big positive changes, and equally, we just need to see PvP and the sandbox switch up a little bit and be something other than what it has been for way too long at this point. So these are just my opinions, guys. You'll have to let me know your thoughts in the comment section. But Bungie outlined a whole bunch of movement changes, changes to the glide, the catapult and strafe lift for the Titan, mobility stat changes. They're going to be trying to balance Arcstrider, Sentinel and Striker to move at the same speeds inside of supers. Arcstrider is getting some buffs. Ability cooldowns are being adjusted. Power ammo changes and respawn changes. General gameplay changes for Crucible. It's all pretty positive stuff. But weapons are a very, very big part of this. Obviously, Destiny is a shooter game, but they say they're looking at buffing things like hand cannons, pulse rifles, sniper rifles, shotguns, even fusion rifles. I think the primary weapons meta definitely needs some switching up, because right now the top performers are either auto rifles, which dominate in close, mid, and shall we say some pretty long mid-range engagements, especially in the case of things like Uriel's Gift, and then you have scout rifles, which dominate when you're out of the effective range of everything else, and they also do a pretty good job of competing even in auto rifle ranges. I think scouts are fine, but some of the auto rifles do need looking at. Uriel's Gift is a big one here. The weapon is incredibly dominant right now because it's pretty much in the best class for assault rifles, but it also has insane range. The drop-off is pretty minimal. Accuracy is very good at long ranges. And what I'm doing here by talking about this stuff, I don't want to throw the nerf bat around by any means, but I think Uriel's does need to be balanced against the other weapons in the game, obviously, because it is one of the main diversity killers in the sandbox right now. So I suppose that's all I really need to say about that. We all know about it. But before we talk about any other changes, time to kill, or that particular terminology, isn't something that they use in the sandbox notes, but we don't know what kind of possible damage changes different weapons are going to see yet, so we'll have to wait and see how that pans out. Let's talk about balance and variety of weapons though. For pulse rifles, most of them need a little bit of love right now. We do have the archetype of things like Darkest Before, Autumn Wind, Time-Worn Spire, which are all the fastest rate of fire pulse rifles, and they're actually pretty solid right now. But with the smallest decrease in damage drop-off and maybe a bit more accuracy, especially at range, this fast-firing pulse could become a very dominant class inside of PvP, so I would absolutely look out for these things. They're already pretty good. But for other archetypes, I think things like Nightshade or the lightweight frame class in general does need a little bit of love. Damage-wise, they're actually pretty solid, but they do suffer when it comes to accuracy. The spread is perhaps a little bit severe, meaning that at longer ranges, even within the optimal range of the weapon archetype, it can be hard to compete depending on what you're actually fighting against. And once again, I'll go back to Uriel's Gift. It kind of just makes no sense that an auto rifle would outdo a pulse rifle like the Nightshade in a very long mid-range engagement. Although I do think, importantly for lightweight frame pulses, the damage drop-off is a little bit severe and starts too early right now. Again, it makes no sense for ARs to be more effective in this pulse rifle's optimum range, and perhaps for the lower rate of fire pulse rifles, they could look at kind of like rate of fire changes to them, and perhaps some damage drop-off stuff as well, because things like 3 Graves, if you land all of your shots with those things, they actually kill pretty quickly. They don't feel that bad to use. I think it's more about how they interact with other weapons in the game right now. Things like flinch also play into it quite a lot. Again, in terms of damage buffs, it's pretty hard to say what should happen here unless we have a picture of time to kill in this new sandbox and how other weapons are behaving. But when it comes to hand cannons, I think bloom and accuracy still need to be addressed a little bit, especially on console. Most hand cannons are pretty difficult to use. They just don't feel that rewarding to use in a lot of situations. However, better devils on consoles in particular, you can absolutely succeed with it. But I think across the board, one of the issues that hand hand cannons face is flinch. You know, if you're being hit by auto rifles, it definitely can be pretty frustrating. It can feel like you're fighting with the weapon in order to land your shots at times. It ultimately feels like hand cannons are just too unforgiving right now. But also flinch absolutely factors into issues with sniper rifles. Bungie have said they want to address flinch with sniper rifles, but also you have issues like the scope sway, which I think is just quite a bit too severe, especially when paired with the zoom changes that we see with a lot of scopes in Destiny 2, because you put all of these issues that snipers face together, and then you've also got the element of the ammo economy where it is right now, and I'm going to talk about that in just a moment. But Bungie do talk about shotguns getting some kind of buff, which is pretty interesting. I'm open to see what could happen there. I think fusion rifles are mostly actually in a pretty good spot, but I think some minor tweaks wouldn't go amiss. This is where it all kind of boils down to the ammo economy when it comes to special weapons, or what used to be special weapons, you know, the snipers, the shotguns, the fusion rifles. This is the one area where I do genuinely kind of have a problem with the current weapon system. Now, I'm not saying that I absolutely loathe the current weapon system at all, you know, I think there are absolutely merits to having kinetic and energy weapons, but the issue that I find with this is that rockets in PvP kill variety so much because they're just so relatively easy to use. They have a ton of benefits, especially if you're playing modes like Trials of the Nine Countdown. You know, most people are just going to go for rockets because you can just drop a rocket on a zone or whatever. You're going to get the same thing inside a control. Rockets are extremely prevalent in the PvP game. Now with the old system, you had specials as well as heavies, so they each kind of had their own moment, you know? There would be a fairly continuous flow of special ammo in one way or another, and by no means am I voting for us to end up in a position where you could just run around with a shotgun aping people for an entire game without using a primary weapon. I don't think anyone really wants that. It's more about having a good balance of those opportunities where you can make those plays, you know? And the issue is that when heavy isn't separated, it isn't a separate moment. When everyone picked up heavy in the Iron Banner or in Trials of Osiris, you knew what was coming. So it just added that bit more depth to the actual gameplay. Once again, I'm not trying to blow that out of proportion. People use shotguns in Destiny 2. People use fusion rifles. You know, these things happen. I'm not saying that these weapons are non-existent by any means. I just think that some serious thought perhaps needs to be put into what these weapons are supposed to be doing and how they interact with each other. So those are my main thoughts on weapons and what I feel like needs looking at in terms of variety and balance. Like I said, time to kill is kind of a separate issue, and we're not really going to get too much information about how that may change until really when we actually get in and play it. It doesn't look like it's going to change too much, but we do have a whole ton of other aspects which are being switched up. So I'm curious to hear what you guys think. What kind of changes would you most like to see inside of March? Certainly going to be one of the most important updates that Destiny 2 has had so far, so now is a good time to keep the feedback coming. I think Bungie need to make a big impression with this update, you know? Anyway, those are my thoughts, guys. Let me know yours down below. I will be reading the comments as always. Just wanted to do a quick mention. I did my first Twitch stream yesterday for quite some time, and a whole bunch of you guys from YouTube came over and watched, which was absolutely awesome. I really appreciate that, and it's something I plan to put more time into. So if you haven't followed me on Twitch and that's something you want to do, the link will be in the description below. Also, a lot of people ask me about Patreon. It's something I don't talk about or push, you know, really in my videos, but I do have a Patreon page. We have our own Discord where we all kind of chat and try and group up and play as much as we can, and I kind of want to build that into an actual community, you know? Even when I'm not around, it can be a great place for other people to find folks to play with. I also do some exclusive Patreon videos and plenty of giveaways and stuff over there as well, so if that is something that interests you, the links will be in the description below as well. For now though, thank you for watching this video. If you are new to the channel, feel free to hit that subscribe button if you want to see more, and whatever you guys do, I hope you have an awesome day.